From the John DeVito Broadcast Center, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Armchair Experts with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Wednesday, November the 30th, the year 2016. And now here they are, still full of stuffing and turkey, Jim and Rich.
There's a lot of things we're full of.
Hey, hey.
Hey, hey.
Hey, hey.
Hey, hey. There's things we've always been told we're full of.
Jim, did you see in yesterday's Sun Times that in the high school section they had a I think it's
I'll reach for it right here.
Good players that fly under the radar, and one of the players is Frankie Mack, who is the son of Dave Mack.
Oh,
one of our
Frankie
former,
Mack, prospect.
Yeah.
I opened the page, and I looked directly at it.
Yeah.
A top-notch player in the northwest suburbs, the 6'2 Mack averaged 15.7 points last season. He's one of the better shooters. 54 three-pointers last season in the Mid-Suburban League. Frankie Mack, a prospect. Yeah. There's a guy to keep a watch for.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
So I texted Dave, congratulated him on because I think Dave has mentioned to me, that his son played, but it sort of goes right over your head sometimes.
Yeah.
And here's his son's name in the paper. What is it? Are the people they mentioned in the article are sort of players that are good players, but are not like they sort of fly under the radar type of thing?
Let's see. They aren't on the wish list of high major college basketball coaches. They're not even on the radar of Division I programs. When the Sun-Times' Michael O'Brien made a list of the top 60 players in the Chicago area last week, not one of these players was on it. Nevertheless, they're high-level players who will be catalysts for their teams this year and marked men by their opponents. Here are the 8 senior sleepers. Jeffrey Boyd down at Homewood Flossmoor. 40% shooter from three-point range last season. 6'3", averaged 10 points as a junior. Justin Wiersgag, or something close to that, from St. Lawrence, 6'6", has an emerging all-around game to go along with his outstanding outside shooting for a player his size. 40% from three-point range.
Yeah, I noticed most of these guys who are three-point shooters had a high percentage.
Yeah. Bron Hill, Thornton Fractional South, 6'5". Double-double machine last year and can fill a stats sheet, playing in relative obscurity. He averaged 14.5 points, 9.5 rebounds, 1.2 blocks, and 1.1 steals last year. Somebody start scouting him. Glenn Abram, Rich East, 6'3". Abram might be the most productive senior no one has heard of. 19 points last year. 19 points, 3 assists, 3 steals. T.J. Best at Wheeling. 10 points, 3 rebounds. We mentioned Frankie Mack. Martrell Barnes, North Lawndale. Some of his teammates might score more, dazzle with their athleticism, and attract more attention, but the 6'2 Barnes will be the backbone of the team. 14.2 points, 9.2 rebounds. Ben Bazar at Deerfield. 6'3 Bazar is already recognized as a lockdown defender on the perimeter, but he's improved his offensive game after averaging 6.3 points and 3 rebounds and 3 assists last season. Interesting ball players. Hey, speaking of high school ball, before we forget, we got to send a congratulations out to Chris Miraz, who won his 100th game over the weekend.
Actually, I just sent him a message on Facebook
today.
I
saw that. You just told him how old he was.
I said, hey, listen, it's you were a young guy. Now that we know you have 100 wins, you're old. Join the club, buddy.
That's right.
That's it.
Never is going to be not as old as us, by golly. That's why we sit up top. And
you know what my father used to say?
What's that?
He said, when you were born, I was 20-some times older than you. And now that you're 21 years old, I'm only twice as old as you, or some such thing.
Such thing.
I used to love his mathematical genius, I'm telling you.
Your dad was a good guy.
Yeah.
Your dad was always a good guy. He'd give me grief when he'd come in the Weebles.
Oh, yeah.
But your dad,
sure.
Your dad would give everybody grief.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a family trait.
yeah, that's for sure. So- that's why we come over here and give it to the doctor.
You notice, Jim, in that article that you were reading about the high school players, though, I always love when they throw in athleticism. Does that mean you can run, you can jump,
You can,
but can you
work-
actually play
Can
the
you-
sport
you-
that
you-
you're involved in?
Yeah, I'm hoping you can.
Yeah.
You can walk and chew gum at the same time, I guess.
Really?
I
I mean, I always wonder. I mean, being a good athlete doesn't necessarily mean you're good at the sport that you're playing, or maybe not that good anyway.
well. By the way, we're just looking at some of these teams. North Lawndale in the Sun-Times Super 25. Since we mentioned that about Martrell Barnes, they're number 4. Excuse me. They're I lost them. Number 7 rather. They're 4-0. Should be an interesting basketball season. I know we did our first game last Monday. I haven't gone back to check on what Ridgewood has done since then, what the boys have done, but they sure look good against Leiden last Monday.
I doubt if they lost any of those games that weekend. To be honest, from what I saw of the, because we watched a little bit of what was
We
it,
watched
Maine East
we
and-
watched a little bit of Francis Parker and Maine East.
Yeah.
Although I think with Maine East, Yash and Josh could have carried everyone.
Oh, listen. I have to say, for what I saw, I would assume, had to be one of those teams that Chris got his 100th victory against.
Yeah. Maine East actually didn't look bad.
Jim, I started.
and actually Francis Parker was pretty good too. That was a fairly competitive ball game.
I was going to say, Chris has got 100 wins, and we figured this is his 7th season.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that Ronnie Kalina I think he had just shy of 300 wins. I think he stopped at 299. But when I started to do the numbers,
Ronnie was around for what? How many years?
I don't know, maybe, who knows? I'm not
Yeah.
sure how many years. But I guess the point that I would make is I started to think, okay, say we've only been 2 or 3 games into the season. So say Chris got his 100 wins in, say it was 6 years. So you divide that, the 6 into 100, you get 16 and a
Yeah.
fraction wins a
Yeah,
year.
now
which is great.
Which is good.
But, I guess my point
Yeah.
would be, if you, let's see, you would have, trying to win 20 games a year over how many years' time would it take you to win 300? What I'm saying is, it's not an easy feat.
No, it's not an easy feat.
100 is not an easy feat.
No. I mean, consider the way coaches change and programs change, and
Yeah.
I give Chris a lot of credit for everything he did. He puts out a good team every year, a competitive team. I also give him credit for whatever he did to take the initiative with the fundraising program he did this year online, to help his program a little bit. Help his program. I really thought he did well.
Are they going to travel at all this year, or as far they used to do a little bit of an out of state thing. I don't know if they're doing that anymore.
Nothing during the season that I can remember.
Okay.
I know he was doing that home and home with Galesburg.
Oh, okay.
But honestly, I don't remember anything on the schedule this year, and to know what they're going to do.
Well,
I kind of look at the schedule just for the purposes of planning anything we're going to do on radio and the internet, and try to make it so I don't have to be making extra trips in.
Well, I just sincerely I'd like to congratulate Chris, and I didn't realize he was. I actually, if you had asked me, I wouldn't have been surprised if he had already passed that milestone at some point, because he's had some really good success.
Yeah, well, and he had a couple of down years.
There were a couple, I think.
A couple of under 500 years. recently, I think, wasn't there?
Close. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if under 500 or close to it.
Yeah, or
one the
close
two.
to it. So,
But
good
then you're gonna. I think that's what you said before, though, Jim. That when, especially if you're a high school coach, you're really, you get the talent you get basically is what you get, and sometimes it's going to be better than others.
Yeah, and I mean, you know what? You're going to be, in this day and age of funding problems and everything else, your program's going to be at the mercy of the money you can get together.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I give credit to Chris for the initiatives he took to put that online thing and get that information out to people and ask that they share it. And it helped them get pretty close to what they were looking for. I think their original goal was 5,000. They exceeded that. And then he moved it to 6, and right before the end of it, they were pretty close to that. They were at least within a couple of $100 of it.
How do you know how old Chris is? I mean, I'd say he's 30ish. So.
30ish. I would guess him to be 30ish.
Yeah.
Everybody's younger than us, Rich.
Yeah. Well, hell, yeah.
Except Davida.
That's a bit.
Except Davida, and
Well, we're gonna
he just shakes. He just nods his head and laughs.
We're gonna start paying for those B12 shots for Davida, so as he can keep going.
That's right.
I need it.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
So do we all.
I think we all do. So, gee,
So what do you
I
want
don't
to talk
know.
about?
I don't know. What do you want to talk about today?
We texted a little bit the other day about the Bears.
We were talking about the Bears, and honestly, I had kind of forgotten about the game until my phone beeped at me at one point on Sunday, and I looked at it, and it was an update, and I saw how badly they were doing at that point. In fact, I even tweeted out, I looked at what was going on Twitter, and I tweeted out, I said, at that point, Barkley had a 39.1 quarterback rating, and I thought, wow, it makes me long for the days of Rick Meyer.
Well, after you had texted me that quarterback rating, and I'm thinking, oh God, we really,
He turned around. They came back.
They did, and I did not hear anything the rest of the day, and I didn't know what the score was till I picked up the paper the next morning, and I'm like, holy crap, it was.
They
close
came
game.
back,
and
Barkley threw for over 300 yards, and
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know. And I didn't go back and try to track it down. How much of that was in the fourth quarter? I mean, it was a furious comeback, and if you consider that, I guess based on Fox's comment on the grading of the film that he made in his press conference yesterday, there were between 8 and 12 drops.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
You make those, you got a victory.
I saw in the paper yesterday that there was only, I think, 2 quarterbacks in the history of the Bears who had more attempts in a game than what Barkley had on Sunday. Billy Wade, I think, in 64.
Yeah, Billy Wade threw like 57.
57, I think.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember who the other quarterback was now, right off the top of my head. So it could, Eric Kramer was the other one.
I was going to say, it probably was Eric Kramer.
Eric Kramer. So, which is, I mean, it's never good when you have to throw that much. Jimmy Sunshine made a good point yesterday over coffee, though. He said, I don't care who they were playing. He said the fact that the Titans knew that the Bears were going to have to pass almost every down at the end. He said, and the fact that Barkley did not get sacked at all in the game, and the Bears had a makeshift line of their own. He said, I was pretty impressed with that. I said, that's a really good point, Jim.
It really was, and Barkley had never thrown for a touchdown in his career until Sunday.
Right. I guess he and Brown were trying to decide how they were going to divvy the ball up because it was Brown's first TD and Barkley's first TD throw.
Yeah.
And I didn't even. Of course, I read the deals section all the time, but so many people come and go in a season, not just for the Bears, but for everybody.
Everybody.
I didn't even realize that Daniel Brown was a member of the team, much less on the active roster.
Yeah.
But Yeah, nice to get I mean, I don't know if that was his first game action with the Bears, but nice to get a TD from your tight end.
I know, and I saw about other receivers. Daniel Braverman has been put on the active roster.
Oh, okay.
Trevathan is obviously done for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else, I think it was it was somebody who was signed to the practice squad.
Yeah.
Some nondescript name, probably a lineman.
You know, the interesting thing, I think, if you're saying this week it'll be the 49ers, you're trying to, as the defensive coordinator, you're trying to game plan for the Bears. It's got to be an interesting job, let's put it that way, because so many of the guys that you're going to face are unknowns, basically.
Yeah.
So how do you plan for that?
Yeah.
So, and actually, you know, the other thing is when you don't have you don't have your main receivers there or your top quarterbacks. That's obviously you want those guys there, but there is a plus to them not being there in the sense that when I read the game stories in yesterday's paper, geez, Barkley threw to so many different receivers, and you know, I'm pretty sure the Titans probably had no clue, basically who was say his favorite guy was going to be until they got a little bit into the game. I know Wilson was the guy that he hit the most.
Yeah, eight for 125 yards.
But I think one of the problems I see with the Bears, and you saw it when Hoyer took over for Cutler for a little bit, and you'd read the articles. You know what? He didn't see Alshon Jeffrey in the end zone, or he didn't. Okay, I get that part. You know what? Maybe you need to be looking at that guy in a key situation. But one of the advantages to, say, a guy like Hoyer or Barkley, or possible advantages, I'll say, is that he's not, because he doesn't work with that guy all the time, he's not keyed in on that guy. So he's going to spread it around and let some other people make some plays. And even though we did have a situation with a lot of drops on Sunday, you know, you actually saw some guys who don't normally play that much make some plays, which is good.
Yeah. You know, well, I think I texted you on Sunday. I said, or the other day, well, once again, the Bears lead the league as far as their receiving core, and they lead the league, and who the hell is he?
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I begin to wonder, and that's why I kind of made the point, or texted the point about, you know, is the problem been Cutler all along? You know what? You're in a situation now with so many injuries and so many people that are being replaced, and so many guys out there who weren't there at the beginning of the year, that you got to dumb down the game plan.
Yeah, I guess.
You know,
you do.
To understand. You may play into your opponent's defense. But to a certain extent, you got to dumb down the game plan, because do these guys, these guys haven't had the experience. I had to laugh. This past week, listening with all the stories about Cutler and the fact that they signed David Fales from the Ravens, off the Ravens squad, to get him in there and activate him for this. Some guy called the station and said that I think this signing Fales was a stupid move. You got to take some kid off the street and give him a shot and see what he can do. And they said, no, they signed him because he has experience with the offense. He understands it. He said, you're coming into a situation where he's conceivably one play away from being the starter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he said, you got to have somebody in there who understands what's going on. He said, no, I disagree. You find some kid and give him a shot. You never know what might happen. Yeah, he could go out and get himself killed for a starter.
Well, yeah. Well, when I was talking with
Jim, all I could think of was Meatball.
Yeah, very much Meatball. I actually sometimes I wish we could get Sunshine to actually come on this show, because he understand sports at the very, how would you say, at a real basic level, which is a good level. I'm not saying that in a derogatory way, but we were talking yesterday, and I said, Jim, really, you could criticize whoever, name the person, and we're in this case we're talking about quarterbacks, but I don't care if the guy is Jay Cutler, Barkley, Fales, this kid they have on the practice squad, Woodruff, or I'm not sure what his last name is. I think it's Woodruff.
Woodruff, yeah.
But do people realize what fantastic abilities, even if you're a practice squad guy, that you have? You're an NFL caliber player.
Yeah.
And I think what does the difference say? When you say, has Jay Cutler been the problem all along? I would say this. My answer to you is what? He's inconsistent.
He's inconsistent, and it can also be that can also be a reflection of his ability being higher than the players around him.
That's a great point. I like that.
That's a point. By the way, I did remember we talked about this. I did find our Twitter handle for.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, Jim and Rich _RHS. If anybody wants to send us a tweet.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Jim and Rich _RHS. We'll look at them and talk about them next week. And just remember your name's on there, so be careful of what you say. And if you're still in school, it will reflect on your final grade.
Yeah, you'll get an A.
That's right. That's right.
From us.
That's right.
Now, when you think about, say, I watched a little bit of the Packers and the Eagles last night. Very impressed with Aaron Rodgers because the Packers have been struggling. And what I got out of the game is with the Packers defense struggling. You have some problems, sort of the same kind of problems you have with the Bears.
Yeah.
The secondary is young, although I think they might have got a player back last night, so it wasn't as young. But you had some problems with injuries with your linebackers. So your defense wasn't really stepping up, maybe didn't have the capability to step up, and so the Packers were in a losing streak. But what I saw last night was Aaron Rodgers, and it's a conscious effort, I think, to step up his game. He was going to take that team on his shoulders, and he was going to make sure he was going to do everything he could to make sure they won.
Yeah, I was listening to somebody who does a podcast for and is also on NBC Sports, talking about the game, and the question was, why did he play like that last night? And his response back was, I don't know. But he just got himself in that zone, had his rhythm, his, your favorite word, athleticism showed. He was getting the ball away quick. Everybody was there.
Well, I heard part of the game, and Boomer Esiason does the color on the radio.
Yeah.
And at one point, he made a really interesting comment. He said, "You know what?" He says, "It could have been that Aaron just got a little bit," and he used the word lazy, at some point during the season. And he says, "What I'm seeing tonight is that his mechanics are back to what they were." And I think maybe something happened that told him, "You know what? I got a little lazy with my mechanics.
I'm not doing something right."
Right.
And, it may be one of those. Go look at the film. Go look at the film and say, "Oh, geez, I didn't realize I was doing that."
Yeah, could easily be that.
And it's very possible, and that's all it took for him.
Yeah, it's interesting when you have a guy like Boomer, who is a good quarterback himself, and he doesn't. What I sort of like about, and I don't listen to him much. What I liked about listening to him last night is comments like that. He's sort of unfiltered in a sense, where I don't think a lot of commentators would say, "Well, I think Aaron Rodgers might have got a little lazy." Well, you can't say anything bad about Aaron Rodgers, that way.
Yeah.
But you know what? Aaron Rodgers or anybody else is human. That can happen.
Yeah, and you're also talking about a commentator who's played the position too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
at a high level.
At a high level, and he may have had those times where they looked at him.
Sure, he did.
Sam White said, "What are you doing out there?"
Yeah,
You know,
no doubt about that.
And you go look at the film and realize, realize what you've been doing.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no doubt.
no, that's interesting. I just wanted to glance. Yeah. The 2 touchdown passes to Davante Adams and ended their 4-game losing streak.
Well, you realize that I'm watching the game, and Adams and Cobb, 2 really good receivers, and I think it's Davante Adams is from Fresno State.
Yeah, I think
And
so.
Randall Cobb, I believe, is from Kentucky.
I think.
And it goes to, boy, I'll tell you what, not that those are 2 podunk schools. I mean, those are known schools, but they're not like known as football factories. And for the Packers, whoever's making those decisions, or whoever was making those decisions, did a great job in spotting those guys, Jim.
Yeah.
Those are 2 really good receivers.
Hey, Kentucky had a big win over the weekend, upset Louisville.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because I read this Steve Greenberg in the Sun-Times, and I sort of half like him, half don't like him. But to me, he is bound and determined that Lamar Jackson will be the Heisman Trophy winner. And I'm like, well, you know what?
Early in the year,
there's
in the year, yeah.
But Jim, here's the whole thing. I have 2 thoughts on this. Based on the way they look at things now, Lamar Jackson probably should be out of the running, because they look at performance, they look at the stats, they look at the team record. But really, is the Heisman Trophy, on the flip side, is that what the Heisman Trophy is supposed to be? They've totally, John, I don't know if I think this is a good word I can use without you bleeping it out, because it's a formal word, but have they bastardized this Heisman Trophy thing?
John didn't cross himself. I guess
No,
it's okay.
I mean, I could say that, right?
Yeah.
That's a word that you use to describe
John
something that's screwed up.
John shrugged his shoulders. Well, it's too late now. You said it.
No, but that's what they've done.
No, that's really the case, and I think what happened is when you opened it up and you had the outside voting. You can go to the site and vote for it. I think it's
you can.
I think it's a sponsorship through a car company. I think.
Okay, I don't know.
And I think it kind of took it away from just the looks of really, I don't know how it was intended, the best player in college football, or the best, and it has changed, and it becomes more of a popularity contest.
It is, and really, when you think about, I don't know, now you would. You limit this search for the Heisman Trophy winner to, what is it, probably a couple hundred schools?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying limit. I mean, that's a lot of schools. How in the heck are you going to see, as a voter, how are you going to have any idea out of 200 and some schools, or if it's 180, but it's got to be close to 200, maybe a little over, maybe a little less. How can you really tell who is actually the Heisman Trophy winner? I think the whole concept, in my mind anyway, has become sort of stupid. I mean, how are you going to pick that one person? And it doesn't matter if this was 1930-something when they started the award, or if it's now. It's a sort of a bogus idea, Jim, when you think about it.
The Heisman Memorial Trophy, usually known colloquially as the Heisman Trophy or the Heisman, is awarded annually to the most outstanding player in college football in the United States whose performance best exhibits the pursuit of excellence with integrity. Winners epitomize great ability combined with diligence, perseverance, and hard work. It is presented by the Heisman Trophy Trust in early December before the postseason bowl games. The award was created by the Downtown Athletic Club in 1935 to recognize the most valuable college player east of the Mississippi. After the death of October 36th of the club's athletic director, John Heisman, the award was named in his honor and broadened to include players west of the Mississippi. It is the oldest. It is the oldest of several overall college awards in college football, including the Maxwell Award, the Walter Camp Award, and the AP Player of the Year. The Heisman and the AP Player of the Year honor the most outstanding player, while the Maxwell and Walter Camp Award recognizes the best player, and the Archie Griffin Award recognizes the most valuable player. Okay, selection. Okay. 3 categories of persons eligible to vote for the award winner. Sports journalist. Heisman.com states that sports journalists are to be the determinants of the award since they are informed, competent, and impartial. There are 870 media voters, 145 from each of the 6 regions. Previous Heisman winners, and in cases where an underclassman wins the award and remains in school to play, a prior winner may also be a current candidate. According to the Heisman.com, there are 57 current prior winners eligible to vote. Fans, as the premier partner of the Heisman Trophy, Nissan has a vote and gives this to its fans. Fan voting is done through a survey collected on ESPN on NissanHeismanHouse.com. This constitutes 1 vote. Let's take a break since I see it's the bottom of the hour. Or the top of the hour, whichever you prefer.
You are listening to Armchair Experts from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Wednesday, November the 30th, the year 2016, with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich. And now back to Armchair Experts with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro.
John, I wanted you to know that since Donald J. Trump is the president-elect, that Christmas is back in, and the Lord's name can be mentioned, so it is the year of our Lord. And even at Ridgewood High School it is. So
That's right. Same thing. Okay.
Just wanted to mention that.
Okay.
So for the next 4 years,
right.
the Lord's back in.
All right.
Yeah, but I got to worry about the atheists that might be listening to us.
The what?
The atheists who might be listening to any of you atheists who want to tweet us, it's at Jim and Rich _RHS. Notable achievements. Yeah, that's right. Going back to the sponsorship, Nissan is a primary sponsor. As a matter of fact, when we were up at Michigan State, they had the Heisman House up there where you could have some displays and get some freebies and meet a Michigan State player from the past. And I can't think of who we met, but
A Michigan State. Has Michigan State had a Heisman winner?
not that I can remember.
Yeah.
Not. It was a kid who played within the last couple of years. He was a lineman. Actually, he was a nice fellow. We had a nice talk there for a couple of minutes. Mm-hmm. Some of the talking about it, notable achievements. Larry Kelly and Clint Frank of Yale were the first teammates to win the Heisman Trophy in 1936 and 1937. Niall Kinnick of Iowa was the only Heisman Trophy winner to have a stadium named after him. Kinnick Stadium in at the University of Ohio. Doc Plant,
University of Ohio,
or Iowa rather. I was looking down at something else and thinking,
okay,
it's
there you go, Jim. Very informative there.
Yeah, I got it all wrong.
Oh.
Doc Blanchard was the first junior to win the Heisman Trophy. Paul Hornung was the only player to win the Heisman Trophy as a player for a losing team.
Yeah, well, that's pretty well known.
Ernie Davis was the first African-American player to win the Heisman Trophy. Terry Baker was the only player to win the Heisman Trophy and play in the Final Four in the same year. He played.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that one either. Archie Griffin is the only player to win the award twice.
Yeah, that I know.
Steve Spurrier, the 1966 recipient as a Florida Gator, became the first Heisman Trophy winner to coach a Heisman Trophy winner. When Danny Werfel.
Yeah.
Charles Woodson of the University of Michigan is the only primarily defensive player to win the award, beating out favorite Peyton Manning in 1997.
Yeah, I forgot. Why did Woodson end up beating Peyton Manning out?
He was a standout cornerback, but occasionally played as a wide receiver and a punt returner.
Well, I know that he returned some kicks for TDs.
Yeah. Yeah. Tim Tebow was the first sophomore to win the Heisman.
Oh, wow. I didn't know he was
Johnny
a sophomore.
Manziel was the first redshirt freshman to win the award.
Okay.
You ask Johnny about that right now, he'll ask you want fries with that? Ohio State and Notre Dame have the most number of Heisman trophies won, each with 7. Ohio State had 6 different players win the award. Player received the most votes by percentage was Reggie Bush of USC in 2005.
Wow.
Although his award has since been vacated.
Oh, yeah, they vacated it.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a they just probably made that trophy he's got at home that much more valuable
That's
when
right.
they vacated
That's
the
right.
award.
That's right.
Yeah, they really slapped him good with that one.
The player who won by the widest margin was Troy Smith of Ohio State in 2006. And the closest margin of votes was in 2009 between Mark Ingram of Alabama and Toby Gerhardt of Stanford.
Troy Smith won the Heisman Trophy
in 2006.
Well, I think they should probably do away with the Heisman Trophy.
As
traditional a guy as I am,
there are guys
do away with it.
There are guys you look at and you wonder, gee, whatever happened to him?
Oh, well, there was a
lot
guy,
of them.
Jim, this has to be within the last 10 years. I think there was an Oklahoma, not Bradford, but let's say this. It was a big, what was Nebraska and Oklahoma? What was their conference? The Big 12?
No, well, the Big 8 back in
the Big 8. There was a Big 8 quarterback that won, let's just say within the last 15 years, that, was not put it this way, it was not a professional quarterback, which is no knock on him, but a very unusual choice. Do you have his name there? He was either Oklahoma or Nebraska, I think.
Within the last...
I'd say within the last 15 years. Maybe the last 20. I don't know.
Oklahoma or Nebraska. Sam Bradford won the Heisman.
Yeah, was before Bradford. You'll get to
Jason White.
Jason White.
2003.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever happened to Jason White?
I don't know. But it's the award is I don't know. I just don't know how you can pick out one. But think about this, Jim. In baseball, how many teams in each league?
Jason White is currently a business owner in Oklahoma.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you have 15 teams in the National and 15 teams in the American League.
Yeah.
And try to pick that's relatively small to how many colleges you have to pick the Heisman from, and that's a difficult deal.
Yeah.
So how are you going to pick the best player out of whatever it is, 200 schools? To me, it's idiotic.
It's a difficult process, and I think, like you said, it's become more of a popularity contest than anything else. I don't know what else to call it. Speaking of popularity contest, hey, what's going to happen? What's going to happen with the college football Final Four?
Well, I'm hearing some things I don't like. Who the heck was I? I was talking to Dan Burt and some other guys at coffee over the weekend. Do you realize that Penn State could win the Big Ten have beaten Ohio State and not make the Final Four?
Only because Michigan beat them by 39.
Well, I don't care what anybody.
I
beat them
know.
by.
I know. I look at the same thing, and you're going, this is going to be another one. They complained about the BCS ratings system and how that was done. You're going to look at this, and you're going to have somebody who deserves to be in there, and it's not going to make it.
Well, here's my prediction, Jim. They will never, ever, ever get this right. And not because of any fault of theirs, but because
fault.
it's impossible
It's
to do it.
impossible to do it.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I'm
Now,
not knocking them,
now,
but this is not a good idea to try to do this.
Yeah,
they
well,
should go back to the traditional bowls, have the sports writers and the coaches vote like they used to, and come and vote on it, because that's really pretty much what it's coming down to anyway.
You get this panel that get together, and they redo it every week. Mm-hmm. They look at everything top to bottom every week when they start this. And you know they put it out, and you still look at it and you go, what are they doing?
Yeah, but Jim, they will still tell you, okay, they'll look at everything, but then they'll say, well, if everything doesn't look right, then it'll have to be part of the eyeball test. Well, what the heck do you think you were doing for the last 50 years anyway?
That's right. That's right.
I mean, it's aggravating as could be.
Oh.
Unbelievable.
I'm trying to. Did they do it? Did they do a release this week, or are they going to wait until?
I think it's at the end. I think.
Or are they going to wait until
this
after
weekend?
Are they? I didn't know if they did one more, or are they going to wait and do it after all the playoffs this weekend? Well, let's see. Jim Harbaugh got fined $10,000 for his little outburst after the game. I thought he had a reason for it too. As much as I dislike Jim Harbaugh, I didn't think it was terribly well officiated.
No, I think the hardest thing for not the hardest thing, but there is no rhyme or reason to. No, there's no official way for an official to spot a ball. You're talking about the spot.
Yeah.
Now, I've heard people say they thought the spot was fine.
Yeah.
And, I mean, these were neutral people. My feeling would be, though, in a close game, that didn't lose anybody the game. That's my feeling. I didn't see the game, but when you're
we watched part of it.
Now, nobody, you know what? Nobody on the Michigan side is talking about how they blew a lead in the second half.
No, they'd never say that.
No. I mean, that's not even an issue.
Because, by golly, we're Michigan.
Yeah.
We don't talk about those things.
Yeah, that's right. You know, the referee blew it, even though we had a, 2-touchdown lead or whatever it was.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I have to admit
I
have to admit there was a certain amount of humility on Michigan's part that we picked up on and read some stories about, posted from up in the papers up there after the Michigan State game, because a couple of the players said when they met after the game, a couple of the Michigan State players said that the Michigan players told them, they said, "Thank you for the wake up. You guys kicked our butts out there."
Yeah.
He said, and we needed that.
Who said this now?
The Michigan players said that to the Michigan State players after that game.
Oh, okay.
They said, you kicked our butts out there, and we needed that.
Jim, I have to say, going back to the four, okay, the only team that I could see, in my mind, that is a definite in that four is Alabama.
Alabama. Everybody else.
I'll tell you what, Ohio State, everybody that I read or hear pretty much feels they're the solid two. But when you now going back to the eyeball test, okay, they squeaked out this one against Michigan. They lost to Penn State. They didn't play well against Indiana. They beat them by 10?
They lost to Michigan State by 1.
Yeah, I mean, so why is Ohio State such a solid number 2?
Michigan, Ohio State had a lot of luck this year.
A lot of luck. I don't think they've been overwhelming by any stretch.
No. I'm going back to try to find scores. just to go back and look at their schedule
Yeah.
and get an idea of what they were like this year.
Now, what did they have 2 losses, Jim, or 1?
I'll tell you in 1 second. They were 11-1.
11-1.
11-1. They're 8-1 in the Big Ten East.
Oh, right.
Okay. All right. Opened up with a couple of cupcakes. They beat Bowling Green 77-10 and Tulsa 48-3. They handled Oklahoma pretty well, 45-24. They beat Rutgers. Everybody beat Rutgers.
Yeah,
They
sure.
beat them 58-0. Ohio State beat Indiana 38-17. I thought that game was closer. I
Yeah,
didn't
I
remember.
did too. Okay.
They got by Wisconsin in overtime, 30-23.
That's right. Okay.
They lost to Penn State by 3. They squeaked by Northwestern by 4.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind here too, there is a good case for them. Just looking at some of these games, they beat the snot out of Nebraska, the number 10 ranked team at that point in time, 62-3. And then followed it up by beating Maryland, but then again, a lot of people beat Maryland 62-3.
Yeah.
They squeaked by Michigan State, and the only reason they squeaked by Michigan State was when Michigan State scored and D'Antonio went for the 2, they failed on the 2.
Right.
And they had to come. They had the game against Michigan where they lost by 3 in overtime.
So
In 2 overtimes.
what you're telling me is basically they have been up and down, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. When they're good, they're very, very good.
Right. No, yeah. I'm just not that, you know what? How could it, again, I don't see these teams, but just what I've, when you see the scores, because now that you recited the scores, I remember, seeing most of those games and getting a little flavor for them.
Yeah.
But it just seems to me that the most consistent team, the best team that has got to be Alabama. The other ones are, they have their pluses and their minuses.
Yeah, and I guess going back and looking at Michigan, maybe the knock on Michigan was there really weren't too many tests for them this year on their schedule.
Yeah.
They beat Hawaii 63-3. They beat University of Central Florida 51-14. They beat Colorado 45-28. They beat Penn State 49-10. Squeaked by Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a good ball club. Wisconsin, Penn State.
Wisconsin, though, there's a team.
Wisconsin,
that's a solid team.
That's a solid team. That's a team that could win on Saturday very easily.
Yeah.
I mean, the game is only 2 or 2.5 points.
This is Wisconsin, Penn State Saturday,
Right. The game is only, let's see. I looked at one thing last night online. It was 2.5. The paper shows it as 1.5 point, with Wisconsin the favorite.
I'll tell you the team, and we don't hear much about them, Jim, because they're on the West Coast. But the sense I get is they're a very tough team.
Washington?
The Huskies.
Washington
Huskies.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. I have not gotten a chance to see them. I mean, my only thing is that I'm finding out about them is what I read, because we just don't get to see their games.
No.
Just going back on about Michigan, Michigan squeaked by Wisconsin, and they turned around and beat Rutgers. But like I said, everyone beats Rutgers. They beat them. They beat them 78-0.
Jim, let me ask you a question. If Rutgers is in the Big Ten.
Yes.
What the
Why?
heck?
Why?
What is? Okay, I understand. I guess why the Big Ten wanted them, because they want a presence out in that part of the
they
country.
want a presence out east.
But Rutgers seems to be so far behind the rest of the conference, at least football-wise. What the heck? What do you do if you're Rutgers to catch up?
Yeah, that's really, you're just going to take your pounding. And I mean, Maryland got off to a halfway decent start, and at that point in time, they couldn't do, they didn't do much of anything else. Just a little bit there, Jen. That's good. Thank you.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
In fact, and going on, Maryland lost to Michigan 59-3.
okay.
And just to give you an idea of what Maryland's record was this year, well, Maryland is actually bowl eligible. They're 6-6.
Well, the other thing about Maryland is at least they have somewhat of a history of at one time in their lives having played good football.
Right. They were.
Bear
ECC
Bryant was there at one point in time.
Were they an ACC team at some point? Or were they an independent?
They might have been. But,
Yeah.
Maryland at least has some history of having
Yeah.
played some
Yeah.
decent football.
Yeah.
I don't know about
And-
Rutgers.
Michigan lost to Iowa 14-13. Michigan had some problems with Indiana.
Well,
Michigan had some problems with Indiana. They got by them 20-10.
you know what's interesting? Everybody talks about how good the SEC is, yet Alabama kicks their butt every year. They're SEC, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? Everybody, 1 year people say the Big Ten is good, 1 year, not so good. But look at how competitive the Big Ten is. You start to name teams. Penn State and Wisconsin are playing for the conference championship this year. You got Michigan and Ohio State. You got Iowa, who's jumped up and bit some people. You got Nebraska, who can beat you. You've also got Northwestern, who's tough. Indiana has gotten better.
Yeah.
You don't have very many cupcakes in the Big Ten.
You've got four teams right now in that top 10 as far as however they're doing the bowls.
Right.
You've got four teams under consideration in there. You have got here's one guy. Michigan has a playoff shot, but it's a Hail Mary is best. I think if Wisconsin beats Penn State, I don't think Wisconsin is going to be considered for the Final Four, but it'll be
right.
It'll be interesting to see what it does to the juggling of it. I was just looking to see if we had any final stats or standings in here on some of these. So I think it's going to be an interesting weekend.
Yeah, well, the playoffs. Now, see, the way these leagues have set up their own interleague playoffs is a great system to me. What they do with the overall playoffs, to determine who's the number one team in the country, it's not really very good. I still say if and I'm just using a number. I don't know if this is the correct number, but say there are 8. They like to call them power conferences. I don't think there's that many, but
I think 5.
Let's identify 8.
5.
Okay, let's identify 8 though. Take the conference champion from each of those 8 and have some type of a playoff.
Have some 3 weekends.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I would say. That's because again, I think we've talked about this on the show. Why do the major league sports have such interesting playoffs, which I think they all do? Because there's a logical way that they do it. I mean, it's and it seems to include the right teams for the most part.
Yeah, in fact, I was glancing before you came in. I was just glancing at the NFL standings, and I mean, you really have 2 teams that are really record-wise standing out: New England and Dallas.
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah,
but you also have Oakland, who's 9-2.
Yeah, Oakland, and and you know what? There's no guarantee they'll even win that conference.
No.
It's a tight race.
It's a tight race.
Teams.
And Denver's 7-4.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Denver's 7-4 in
Kansas
third place.
Kansas City's 8-3.
Yeah,
and I mean, I think in the NFC East, Dallas has pretty much locked it up. I think they pretty much locked it up.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question.
But you're going to have. It's going to be interesting to see, when we get to the final week of the season, how many 9-7 teams there are and how this is going to juggle around in the playoffs. And you could have a 7-9 team in there again.
It's possible.
Very easily, you could have a 7-9 team, wind up in the playoffs somehow. I mean, we'd have to sit there and start to work through the numbers. I mean, you look at the AFC North. You have Baltimore who's 6-5, Pittsburgh who's 6-5. You look at the AFC South. You have Houston who's 6-5. Tennessee is 6-6.
Here's what I don't like with the college thing, Jim. Okay, I'm not saying that they could even win. There's no way they're going to win. Western Michigan has the first, I think, perfect season in the history of their school going. Fleck has come in there and done a great job. The program, I think, was down a little bit. He brought it back up.
Yeah, he really did.
And you know what? Why the heck can you not have a playoff big enough to at least include an undefeated team that's in it's not a super major conference, but it's a very solid conference, and just give them their little taste.
Give them a taste of it.
Yeah.
You think back a couple of years ago when Northern Illinois got invited and played in the Orange Bowl. Oh, and the football purists.
Oh my God! Everybody was up in arms. Oh, how can they do this?
Pompous Herb Street.
Yeah.
Oh my God! How do they desecrate?
Yeah, they desecrated the Orange Bowl by inviting Northern, and I think Northern got beat good. But I mean, it's not like they were.
Yeah, Northern got it handed to them.
But what the heck? They were there.
Yeah, and it made a great impact on the school. I hear that's one of the jobs that could be open, so I haven't checked on them.
You know what though, Jim? I think originally, because I just read they won their last game in the MAC.
Yeah.
I think they finished 5-7.
Yeah, which
it's
is
possible they could go to a bowl, but and I don't want to get into that discussion, but. But, I read a little bit of Rod Carey's comments after the season, and he said, geez, we lost, I'll just say it was 4 games by less than 4 points.
Yeah.
So it's not like we just totally took a dive. I mean, we lost some tough games. And so, I had heard earlier that Rod Carey's job might be in jeopardy. I don't think so. I doubt it.
Speaking of jobs in jeopardy, what about Brian Kelly?
Well, his what?
Besides,
let's put it this way: his body of work in total, including the incident where the kid got killed on the on the scaffold, he should be out so fast. You shouldn't even be able to blink your eyes.
And he talks about accountability.
Yeah.
After one of his players kicked the guy in the head. On Saturday, and then walked over another guy's ankles. Mm-hmm. Accountability is built into our program. Then why, when you are faced with a situation of academic fraud, you stand up there high and mighty when somebody asks you, do you feel you have any culpability in this? And he went, absolutely none at all. It's your program.
Yeah.
It's your program, dude. If you want to make your program successful, start looking at the coach in the mirror and realize what you need to do. The stories are out that he's got his people looking for his next job.
Oh,
even though he'll claim to the ends of the earth that my loyalty is to Notre Dame and I will be here. I mean, when they went down and played in the national championship game a few years ago, he was in Philadelphia the next week interviewing for the Eagles job.
Yeah. No, in my mind, Jim, the guy he's bogus, and you know what? I am not an anti-Notre Dame guy. Over the years, I became more of a Notre Dame supporter. But with this guy, I could care less about Notre Dame at this point. And they need somebody. They need a Notre Dame. You know what? If you're Notre Dame,
they need a Notre Dame guy.
What they need is a high. They need a Nick Saban. They need an Urban Meyer.
They need
somebody like that.
They need somebody like that.
That's what they need.
They need somebody like that.
Trying to pick some guy from, Brian Kelly is probably in the same category as Jerry Faust in terms of being successful.
They both came from the same city. Faust was a coach in Moeller High School in Cincinnati.
Right. Right.
And Kelly's last stop prior to there was was University of Cincinnati, and he ran on their team when they made a bowl game. They had one of their most successful years. He jumped ship before the Bulls.
You know what, Jim? I would say this: if I was Notre Dame, despite the trend in football being, a high-powered air attack, Notre Dame, I look at like, say, the Chicago Bears or teams of that type. You know what? You need to play hard-nosed, physical football if you're Notre Dame. You can't. Notre Dame, I don't know what it is, Jim. If it's just the DNA of the school, if you want to put it that way. You cannot try to make Notre Dame something that's not. You cannot try to have Charlie Weiss tried to do it, the Big Air Show. Kelly tried to do it. It doesn't work. You got to come down, get these big Chicago Catholic League linemen, and knock the heck out of people on the line of scrimmage, and play Notre Dame football. That's my opinion. That's what needs to be done.
You have to do that. And you also have to make sure the rest of your program is cleaned up.
Oh, for sure. Well, but see,
you had the girl kill herself after she was molested, after she was sexually assaulted by two of his players.
Well,
and he was like, well,
I don't understand, unless he's actually got something over the Notre Dame administration, how the heck he even still has a job.
That's the thing I wonder, and I think as long as Swarbrick is the AD, he might be safe, but rumors are that Swarbrick could get swept out here too.
When you think about it, I mean, even though Notre Dame basketball is doing great with Mike Bray, I mean, Mike Bray does a great job.
Yeah.
Notre Dame football is always going to be the flagship of Notre Dame sports, and it's in the pits.
Yeah. It was interesting too when all this stuff was that story was breaking last week about the academic fraud and everything else. Last week, Barry Rosner was on in the afternoon with Dan Bernstein, and they posed the question out. They said, "How do Notre Dame fans feel about all this?" And the comments, and the fact that they're going to have to vacate 2 years worth of victories.
Yeah.
Every game, those 2 years, including that trip to the national championship game. And the overwhelming response was, we don't care. Although there were people that the most, I think probably there were a couple of responses along the same way. If it means we're one day closer than getting rid of that piece of crap, Brian Kelly, we're fine with it.
What were they fine with then, Jim?
That vacate all this.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
If it brings them one step closer to getting him out the door, they're quite happy with it.
Okay, I got you.
So, John's got to answer the phone. I was going to say let's wrap it up, but John's got to answer the phone. We have the studio line.
Jim, I wanted the one thing I saw an article in the paper the other day, and it seems like I'll tell you, I was, at least up to this point, I was so wrong about the Bulls bringing in Wade and Rondo. Those guys have, to me, at least from what it looks like from the outside, seem to have been nothing but a positive on this team.
A real positive. I wanted to watch the game the other night against Philadelphia, and I forgot about it. Because it was on, I think it was on WGN. I wanted to watch it. Being without cable, that's what I have to kind of pay attention to some of these stuff.
Sure.
They may not be a good team. They may not be the best team, but they're sure interesting to watch.
No, they're going to be
they're going to be a playoff ball club.
Yeah, I think so.
Probably 42, 43 wins, maybe a 6th or 7th seed. Probably bounce out early, but they've been really interesting to watch. Wildly inconsistent at times, especially off the bench.
I think, Jim, in basketball, more than any other sport, the coach is at the mercy of the players. And last year, the players, I'm not going to say all the players, but there were players, I think, who were trying to undermine the coach. And this year, you've got players who arguably are more high profile, so they bring more cachet to the table, if you want to put it that way.
Ooh, nice word.
But,
nice word. Cachet.
You know, the thing about it is that these guys realize that, you know what, we got to be all in this together to have any success.
Yeah.
I said, you know what, I said, Dwayne Wade the other day in the paper said, geez, you know what, the coach has me, working on, how was it? Wade likes to, I think he likes to shoot off the dribble, maybe. Let's just say that. He doesn't like to shoot off the catch and pop. He's a coach has me working on that, and he seems all good with that. So, in other words, Dwayne Wade, who's been around, he's 34 years old, been in the league 13 years, has multiple NBA championships under his belt, is saying, I'm willing to be coached. I don't know everything. I understand there's parts of my game that I could improve. He comes in with that attitude where you had guys on the team last year who was, well, I got a high basketball IQ, and I don't need to be
this.
coached.
I don't need this. I can handle it.
You know, that's the whole difference.
It's a different team, and it's enjoyable to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Watching some Bulls games last year was almost, that was
terrible.
Painful.
The painful, good word.
Good
word for it.
That was painful, even though it was a bad team. It really was. It was
terrible.
It was bad, and I mean, I've used the term "fun bad," where you watch them and they're bad, but
There's
you
two
look at
different-
it,
you got a
you
good-
look at
yeah.
it, and you shrug your shoulders and throw your hands up in the air and go, "Well, that's just the way it is."
Yeah,
but
you're absolutely right. There's fun bad, and there's bad, disgusting,
and then there's
painful bad.
There's bad, disgusting, painful bad, and I keep thinking one time watching I think it was a Bears Chiefs game a few years ago, and I've got Twitter open up, and I looked at the game. I looked at my Twitter feed, and I saw Dan Bernstein tweet out, "This game makes my television smell." That's the way Bulls games were. Some of them that I watched last year. Oh my God, this thing is terrible.
Yeah, no, they were bad. Not enjoyable to watch at all.
No.
Well, I think part of it is, even though you're professionals, so you're supposed to be serious. Again, I think basketball, almost more than the other games, you should be having some fun. Basketball can be fun, even for a professional.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody was having fun last year.
Nobody was having fun last year. But we had fun today. Did you have fun?
Always, man. We could
Yeah?
do this all the time.
John, did you have fun? Of course. Oh, okay. Did I wake you in there? All
Are
right.
you gonna be there tonight, John? We don't. I thought we just said we had a game Tuesday.
No.
Oh, good. I'm off tonight then.
Yeah, we don't have.
I
We
thought
don't
we
have
had
a
a
game.
game.
We don't
When's
have
our
a
next
game.
game?
The 9th of December.
Oh, okay. I thought you had said that we had a game
No,
tonight.
we have a game the 9th and the 17th of this month, and then that'll
And
be
you
all
said
for
the 9th
December.
is a Saturday or Friday?
Friday, and then the 17th is a Saturday.
Okay, that's good.
All right.
That's good.
We can do that. We'll get together.
I thought we were all getting together twice today.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
listen, I'm going to be around for a while. If you want, I'll meet you over for coffee before.
You want to make this a 3-hour show? I don't know.
I'll meet you for coffee. I don't know.
All right.
Are
Sounds
you
good.
working today?
I'm
or-
working.
Oh, okay. All right. I was going to say, but
You gotta head back to the Manse in Woodridge.
I'm going to do some things as long as I'm in the neighborhood here today. I thought I was. I got my final tax client done. We were going to take off tomorrow for Michigan for a few days, but my mother-in-law was a little bit under the weather over the weekend, and we were not quite sure what's going on, so we at least canceled the first part of our trip, and maybe we'll go up Saturday for a couple of days.
I do have an apology to make, though, since I mentioned the new president-elect's name sometime in the broadcast. If everybody is scampering for their safe places and their milk and cookies, I didn't want to get that panic started again.
And
so.
you may reach Mr. Massaro directly at his Facebook account and let him know that. Don't make sure you pick the Rich Massaro that has a lot of friends, because the other one, he started to play around with it there and just never liked it.
I'm telling you, man. I don't. Can you imagine in the neighborhood? Now, we didn't grow up in the toughest neighborhood, but we grew up in a pretty tough neighborhood. I mean, you're afraid of a man with a hairdo like that? Come on, give me a break. I can't believe it.
We'd be laughing at him. Can you imagine if somebody like him would have taught us at Ridgewood with that hairdo?
He would have been in big trouble, buddy.
Can you imagine that? I can't even think of anybody who had a hairdo like that at Ridgewood.
No.
Oh, the closest one with the ducktail and that, Murray Williams.
Yeah, that's right. Murray Williams. You're right.
The biology teacher,
You're right,
freshman
yeah.
year. He was the closest. He would have been the closest hairdo.
He would have been, yeah.
He was like he was in a 50s time warp with
Yeah, no doubt about it.
So, all right. Time for us to get out of here. Thanks to the Doctor of the Dials for his letting us come in here and play radio or whatever nonsense we do. If you have anything you want to let us know, you can find us on Twitter as at Jim and Rich _RHS. Just remember, we have your name. We will have your location. And if you are a student, it will reflect in your grades. All right. Of course, we're kidding. We had fun. We'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Until that time, we are Taillights.
You have been listening to Armchair Experts from the John DeVito Broadcast Center on Wednesday, November the 30th, the year 2016 on Jack FM 89.7, WRHS FM Norwich, and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro. This broadcast was directed by John DeVito, and our special thanks to radio station manager Kevin Zeflik of WRHS FM Norwich and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Chikanda. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Tuesday, November the 29th, the year 2016. Until next time, please be safe, be happy, and God bless you.